Well, it's such a privilege, I just have to say, and tonight in some comments, I'm going to thank the Lord first, because if He hadn't saved me in December 27, 1970, in a little Baptist church in Vincennes, Indiana, I sat on the front pew, had my own prayer, and asked the Lord to come into my heart and life. And the next Sunday, I went down forward again at altar call and looked at that group, which I didn't know them. I knew faces, but I looked back at them and I said, you don't know what I did last Sunday, but I was 30 years old. I said, I sat there on that front pew and asked the Lord to save me, and God helping me, I'll live for Him. And God's been helping me now 48 years, Lord willing, come December 27. And so this tonight is a culmination of a little bit of my obedience and all kinds of God's blessing. So I'm thrilled. Well, Nick, I had never coached a team as such. So when I was asked to, consider being the coach, the first thing I did when I decided to go ahead and do it was I went to Georgia Tech down in Atlanta, my old alma mater where I played my college golf, and I sat down with Puggy Blackman. And I mean, right from the start, my heart was to see Liberty University win a national championship. Now, we were starting with meager beginnings, so to speak, in Division I. I think that first year I had like 6 or 7 players that, I could count on being there. And you take 5 with you, so we were, and my wife washed the shirts we only had like 3 shirts each. And so every time we'd come back, she'd wash those shirts and we'd take them back out. But I just sat down with him and I said, Puggy, what makes a national champion? Because he had won a championship at another school. And he laid some things out, and I tried to follow those guidelines. And one was to have your own tournaments. And we had not had a tournament here before, but I decided to go to Water's Edge. I had a great course, and we then had a tournament. We brought in the top 20 teams in the country, going on their way to the East Regional every year for several years. And my players would get to play in that, compete against the best in the country. And I guess more and more felt like this can be us. And so that's kind of where it started. I had a dream and a vision for the program, and we worked hard to see that come true in some degree. And we had a fall tournament, and we had a spring tournament. And then, of course, we had a fall season, a spring season. Absolutely, absolutely. Todd Setsma was inducted 2 years ago into the Liberty Hall of Fame. And Todd had all sorts of great awards while he was at Liberty and won tournaments for us. And Todd was one of those players. You just let him see who's the best, and he had a sense of striving. And I think that's true with so many good athletes. If they have somebody that they can measure up to, then they'll rise up to that occasion, to the ability that they have. And he was one that excelled exceptionally well against the top 20, and many others of my players. In 1994, we were at Davis Elkins, and Kenny Hobbs will be here tonight for this event. And I reminded him today at lunch, he was the first Division I champion, individual champion for Liberty University at Davis Elkins. And then I think there were like 18 teams. You take 5 players, and then you have a lot of different teams. So it's hard to win a tournament because you have so many teams. And it's hard for an individual to win because there's maybe 90 players that you're playing against. So when he won that tournament, and then we won that tournament as a team in a playoff, extra hole playoff. And I remember like it was yesterday, standing up on a little knoll. I got them all together before we went to the tee, and we stood in a circle, held hands, and prayed that God would allow us to do the best we could possibly do, and let it be left at that place. And it was good enough that day to win. And the previous summer at a retreat, I had been offered to get to go to play a gentleman's home course. When we won our first individual tournament for a player, he would get to go, and I would get to go when we won our first Division I team event. And we won them both in the same tournament, Davis Elkins. And so Kenny Hobbs and I got to go play that home course. And I found out the home course was Augusta National. So it was quite a day. Oh, that was awesome. That was unbelievable. We played the par 3 executive course first, and then we had lunch in the clubhouse, and then we played the Masters course, the Augusta. It was great. And Kenny was from Georgia, so Kenny was. Oh yeah. Oh, we were at this retreat, and this gentleman was sat right in front of us, and they said, "Why don't you all get acquainted?" And so he leaned over and introduced himself, and he said, "How long have you been coaching?" I said, "Oh, just since '92." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, when you win your first tournament and your first player wins his individual tournament, I'll get you on my home course." And Kenny, he punched me and said, "Coach, ask him where it is." And I said, "Well, where is that home course?" I was thinking, we play pretty nice courses. He said, "Augusta National." And Kenny said, "Coach, I'm going to be the first one to win." He beat his best friend by 1 stroke. So that always was my lesson for anybody on my team, what 1 stroke difference can mean. A trip to Augusta. I do. It was a St. John's tournament, and we had a great team. I had 2 freshmen that were tremendous players. Andrew Turner was one of those players, and Andrew ended up, I think, recently he won $100,000 in a Pennsylvania tournament. So he's still playing quite well. But they were freshmen, and we got to that tournament. I remember the last day, the night before the last day, I had a team meeting, and I said, we've got to stick it to St. John's. I know they're the home team, but Frank and his team have to lose. This Frank and this team has to win. And my Andrew Turner came up, and I was standing there, and he said, "Coach, we're stuck at 2 St. John's." And their coach was standing right behind us. And I don't think he knew he was there, but I remember giving Frank, St. John's coach, a hug and saying, "Coach, it just was a great event. We just, happy to be here and happy to win." But we were excited. That was great. Yep. We had, one thought that I always tried to have the guys think about was that every stroke, 1 stroke that they give away, for whatever reason, that they give up, is a team stroke. And event after event, 1 stroke is what makes you win or lose, or get second instead of first, or third instead of fourth. So, I try to emphasize to them that they're playing individually, absolutely. And they need to play their game. But at the same time, they're on a team with 4 other players, and you could always throw out 1 score, and you count the 4 best each day. So, we could have a player that would, not have his best day, but we had to have somebody else then step up and have their best day if we were going to be a team that was going to win. And when we, in 2003, when we were 4th in the Mid-East Conference, Mid-Atlantic Conference, we were 4th and earned our way to the East Regional by being the 4th out of 40 teams in that region. We played at Pennsylvania on Penn State's course. And the last day, the guys rose to the occasion, and they really pulled together, and they were like 20 under par for 1 day, which was a pretty good day's golf. Well, I will always be a part of Liberty University and the golf program. I count it a privilege to have been part of what Jerry's dream was and vision for Liberty University. We moved here in 1981 and we were going to Thomas Road. And I caught the vision early on. That's why we came here not knowing anyone but Dr. Falwell, just by a sermon I heard him give and a talk about the school. So I bought in a long time ago, and I think going back, I almost missed young Jude. He had the best score on any given day of anyone in our program. He had a 63 in the Big South Championship and ended up winning that tournament by 6 strokes the year he was Golfer of the Year in 2000. But players like him and the ones that maybe weren't as good as some of these players we've mentioned, but they came here because they wanted to be a champion for Christ. Or when they got here, they decided that they could be and wanted to be. So I'm for Champions for Christ, and I'm for Liberty University, and I have been for a long, long time. And Lord willing, He give me more years to be so, I will be.